after further review, a Clemson student's perspective on sports.
It's AFR time, baby. Let's get up. Let's get rolling.
That's right. Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business. He played it down.
Okay, so if Trevor Lawrence isn't either the second or third string quarterback in the fall, I shave my head and you get a tattoo?
Well, you gotta get a head tattoo. You gotta shave your
get a head tattoo. Now we're talking.
And get a head tattoo.
And a personal foul on number 99 of the defense. After he tackled the quarterback, he's giving them business down there. That's a 15-yard penalty.
And now your host, Jay, Bradley, and Evan.
Well, good evening, everybody. Happy Monday to you. AFR now on your radio. Jay Smith, Bradley Kendall, Evan McDowell in the back producing it for us. Excited to break down college football for you again. Week 6 in the books. A lot to talk about. Bradley, let's dive right into it after further review.
After further review, there's only one team in America right now that is top 10 in offense and defense. And I'll give you a hint. It's not the Alabama Crimson Tide, which would be the obvious pick in everyone's minds, but it's not Alabama. Which team is top 10 in offense and defense? We'll talk about that a little bit later.
If you follow us on Twitter, you already know these.
There you go.
Someone likes tweeting spoilers.
422 people might know it.
Speaking of Twitter, Twitter's been popping for us the last
Has
couple
been
weeks.
popping,
We've been getting
yeah.
a lot of engagement, a lot of replies, a lot of likes, a lot of retweets, so be sure to follow us at After Review Show.
A lot about the strength of schedule, too. That's been the topic of conversation all today.
Yeah, an interesting metric, one that Bradley and I obviously have differing opinions on, but hey, we'd love to hear, your thoughts, whether it's on Twitter or on the phone lines.
On the phone lines, exactly. Speaking of that, we got the Northland Communication Hotline. Chime into us. We'd love to hear from you. 864-654-7627. And then the Help Dare text line, 864-986-1566. Yeah, Jay, lots that happened this weekend. A lot of...
What's the one game you want to start with?
Wow, put me on the spot.
I was going to say the Red River
one game
rivalry.
I want to start with. How about Kentucky?
Ooh,
Kentucky and Texas
I
A&M,
like
a game that I think Evan circled as a potential upset this past weekend, and one that I really was interested to see based on how Kentucky had been playing the last 3 weeks. We saw a lot out of Benny Snell and the potential of that offense, and honestly, with a win there, they could have cracked the top 10, but against a really formidable Texas A&M defense, Kentucky couldn't move the ball.
No, and Kellen Mond played pretty well.
He played very well.
I got to give him props there. I mean, going 18 for 29 for 226 yards, and a pair of touchdowns. He looked poised, and it was a low-scoring game.
Oh, very low-scoring game.
A bit of a quote.
You got to feel bad for that Kentucky kicker.
No, it was a bit of a slobber knocker. We know that's Evan's favorite term. I see him shaking his head
Evan
there
just
in the back.
left the room after you said it.
You can hear the eye roll through the microphone. But no, seriously, this was
all I'm saying is we're 2 mute buttons away from this being the Evan McDowell show. So if I hear slobber knocker again, it's all bear all the time.
Please tweet in. Would you want to see the Evan McDowell show? Does anyone want to see that? We can make a poll about that.
No, I know at least one person who does.
But I know that this
Dana
was
McDowell.
That's 2.
A lower scoring game, Bradley, one that obviously went into overtime. I caught the tail end of this one on the car ride home from Wake Forest because I actually went to the game this weekend, heard it on the Kentucky Sports Radio Network. That's the second Kentucky game I've listened to this season on the radio. They actually have a pretty good
year listening to the radio
network. They have a pretty good crew. But no, this game was in overtime, and it was close.
Very close. And I'm just trying to wrap my mind around how, and there was a lot of controversy between both Stoops coaches this week with Mark and Mike Stoops. Mark obviously being the one. Mark's the one in Oklahoma, right? Or is he the one in Kentucky, Evan? There's Mark and Mike. Mike's the one.
Mike is the one that just got fired at Oklahoma. Mark is the head coach at Kentucky.
Wanted to make sure I have that right. But Mark Stoops gave the ball to Benny Snell 13 times in this game. Now, I do realize A&M's defense, is known for stopping the run. That's what they do. They got a great D-line. But 13 times out of your Heisman Trophy candidate, that's just a head scratcher. I don't know where in the coaching, philosophy there that you say, let's just give the ball to this guy 13 times and make our quarterback throw. I mean, because obviously he couldn't.
I think the biggest takeaway from this game for me personally, besides the fact that Kentucky was trying to go 6-0 for the first time since 1950, the biggest takeaway for me, Kentucky did not have an offensive snap on the A&M side of the football field until overtime.
Wow.
Their offense was stagnant, and that was their biggest Achilles heel. They were not able to put together long drives.
Kentucky's a one-dimensional team, and I think we found that out very quickly in this game. If it's not Snell, they're like Stanford a little bit. If they don't have Bryce Lover, they don't have Benny Snell, they just go in full shutdown mode, and that's kind of hard to do on the road in a very hostile environment for a team that's not really known at being in this situation.
But I was looking at their schedule after this game, Bradley, and correct me if I'm wrong, but besides the Georgia game on November 3rd, who can beat them?
Exactly. I mean, that's what we were saying.
11-1 team.
We were saying that 2 weeks ago after they got by the meat of that first part of the schedule. I mean, the SEC isn't great at all. The SEC East is not great at all, but they don't play any of the good teams outside of Georgia.
No.
They really don't. They've already got them in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, this could easily be.
I honestly think that even with this loss on the road against an A&M team that wasn't ranked, and let's say you lose the Georgia game, you finish 10-2, I think that's a top 15, top 20
They'll
Kentucky
be favored
team.
in the majority of their games outside of that Georgia game. And watch out. I mean, that Georgia game means a lot. Not only for the SECs, but for the SEC in general.
It's at home for Kentucky.
Could easily impact the SEC and a national landscape if Kentucky's able to find a way to squeak that out.
We keep talking about Georgia being the only team that can beat Bama when they face each other in the SEC championship. Holy curveball if Kentucky wins the East and ends up playing for the SEC championship against Bama.
That would be. Anybody want to throw the bet down right now? Every time we come into the show, we just hear the bet replayed. I'm still waiting on Evan to shave that mop he's got on his head back there. But
we got
I do need a haircut.
We got to have a new bet.
She's got the final say.
We do need a haircut.
All right, next game, Red River rivalry, Texas, Oklahoma, what some called the game of the season so far. This one I unfortunately wasn't able to watch. Furious offensive performance by both teams, 48-45, the final score in favor of the Longhorns.
And I couldn't figure out multiple things in this game. First one, what is called? Is it the Red River Shootout? The Red River Rivalry?
I always thought it was the
Red River Showdown?
It's the Red River Rivalry if you're good at not getting tongue-tied, but if you can't say 3 R's in a row, throw the word shootout in there. And
so if you're an announcer or someone on the radio, then you say the latter of the two.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and the other thing being that I couldn't really figure out is Oklahoma, what are you doing on defense? I mean, there's a reason they fired their defensive coordinator after this past weekend.
Against a Texas offense, like Walt highlighted the segment before we went on air, that's been pretty bad.
I mean, they to Kansas State, 19 points. That's inexcusable, and they put up 48, dropped a 48 bomb on Oklahoma, and almost lost. That was the amazing part is, with a 45-24 lead, Oklahoma still almost won the game. And I think that just goes to show that their offense is capable. Oklahoma's offense is capable of holding with anyone in the country, maybe even including Alabama. But without a defense, without Baker Mayfield or someone to save them throughout their season, they're not going anywhere, especially in the Big 12.
No, and the Big 12 right now may have a better reputation than the ACC, but I think when you get to the postseason, if you're in that position for Oklahoma, it's not going to go well.
And does the Big 12 now only have one chance at a playoff spot with West Virginia?
Yes. I thought that since the beginning of the season. I didn't think you were going to see multiple teams, Bradley, from the Big 12.
Could be zero, because Evan's got Iowa State this week.
Yeah, I know. I'm putting West Virginia on upset alert. They're going to Ames to play the Cyclones, and that's not going to be an easy game to win, especially with the way West Virginia's been playing the last 2 weeks. So I still think, regardless of if West Virginia loses this weekend, I still think Oklahoma's the conference's best shot to make the playoff. I think they're a more complete team than West Virginia, and I like their offense more. I like Kyler Murray, and despite the loss this past weekend, he played really well. He
played phenomenal.
He threw for 300 yards and almost rushed for 102. Like, it was not his fault that they lost that game.
He took the blame for this,
which he shouldn't have.
He should not have.
Here's the thing, guys. Oklahoma's defense gave up 48 to a Texas offense that we've already talked about how stagnant they are. At West Virginia at the end of the season, Will Grier, guess what? They don't have a stagnant offense. So that's why
they're putting up 50.
I'm still circling that West Virginia-Oklahoma game at the end of the season. It's at West Virginia. We've seen West Virginia's offensive firepower and Will Grier. So that's why I'm picking the Mountaineers in that game.
Even Texas Tech. I mean, don't even count out the Red Raiders, who's dropping 50 a game if Alan Bowman can come back. That's going to be a tough one. So, I mean, the Big 12 is in a tough situation right now because you've got Oklahoma already with an L and potentially having to face West Virginia twice if you include the Big 12 championship game. If you get through West Virginia
twice, you're going to make the playoff.
But that's the thing. They're going to have to play them twice, and that's a very, very tall task.
Yeah.
And
you think if they go 1-1 and West Virginia loses somewhere else, you think the Big 12 just gets eliminated?
I think even if West Virginia loses once,
because of Notre Dame this year. Notre Dame is kind of that wild card.
I'd even be willing to put UCF over a Big 12 champion with only one loss at this point. If UCF can run the table, I think it's arguable that any team in the Big 12 UCF could beat because they've got a very similar style of playing. Great quarterback, great offense. semi-decent defense.
Speaking of the Fighting Irish, what do you make of the game this past Saturday? Obviously, Notre Dame beat Virginia Tech pretty handily, 45-23. This one I thought was going to be pretty close because it was at Lane Stadium. It wasn't close.
Wasn't close. Ian Book passed, I think, his final test that we need to see to pencil him in as a very, very decent top-tier quarterback at this point. Because both those games, the Stanford and Michigan game, while he didn't play in the first one, they were at home. They were under the lights at Notre Dame Stadium with the comforts of the fan base there. But on the road at Virginia Tech, very hostile place to play. Despite the fact that Virginia Tech, had been struggling the last 2 weeks, Ian Book passed the test, and he did it very, very well. I think right now you could argue outside of Alabama that Notre Dame probably has the best offensive-defensive combination in the country right now. I think it's very arguable.
Yeah, and I think, with the remaining schedule, I'm pulling it up right here.
It's a cakewalk.
It's pretty favorable. I mean, you've got Pitt, Navy. Navy's a tough team to prepare for. Northwestern
might be tough. Yeah.
FSU maybe. Syracuse, they're going to have a good offense. And then USC. So there's, one rivalry game left? Or is Pitt a rival?
I guess you could technically say it's one of those old Big East rivalries.
You can't count out USC. That one is on the road. You can't count out Syracuse. Navy's. So not a cakewalk like you'd see for Clemson's ACC.
They'll be double-digit favorites the rest of the way, though.
Yes.
That is a guarantee, without a doubt.
And you're thinking in my opinion, if they get through the season 12-0, 11-1, I think that they're going to be in the conversation. And that's the thing. I think even with one loss, Notre Dame still has a very, very great chance, depending on what happens elsewhere, to make a playoff run. I really do. Good wins against Stanford, Virginia Tech, and Michigan.
I think a one-loss Notre Dame team gets left out because you don't have the benefit of a conference championship game. You get a bye week when the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, and the Pac-12 are all playing an extra game. So if you're Notre Dame, you can't afford to lose. And you got a couple very losable games on that schedule. Navy with the triple option, of course, can be tricky. I think at Northwestern is going to be a tough game. And then the end-of-the-year rivalry game at Southern Cal is not going to be an easy one either. Other than that, they ought to breeze through Florida State because Florida State is a joke of a football team right now. That Syracuse game is at home, so there's a little bit of a benefit, but so is the Clemson-Syracuse game.
Syracuse is still going to play them tough.
Not an easy win.
They're not a team to mess around with. Evan, I keep picturing that garbage can on fire gif every time you mention Florida State's program in general. I mean, it's too easy.
What do you make of LSU this weekend? They lost to Florida 19-27. Is Florida for real? Is LSU fake? Which is it?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I am very impressed with how Felipe Franks and Dan Mullen were able to prepare for LSU. Mm-hmm. This is the kind of game they were going to have to win. It was a low-scoring game. They basically played like Auburn did when LSU beat them. They were just able to finalize and finish the game.
Joe Burrow was under a lot of pressure in this game. I mean, he did go 19 for 34, but he threw 2 picks.
And that's the thing. Joe Burrow was under 50% the entire season. So you knew it was just a matter of time when his running game was not able to pick him up. And it just came at an inopportune time on the road at Florida. Just happened to run into a buzzsaw of a defense there.
And if you're Florida, I mean, you've got really Georgia, October 27th. And the rest of your schedule, you've got Vandy, Mizzou, South Carolina, Idaho, FSU. I don't see any reason why Florida couldn't be 10-2.
It's amazing after 4-8 last year.
Yeah.
And we were saying preseason 6-7 wins. That's max.
I wasn't buying into Florida
max.
at all.
Not at all. I didn't think Felipe Franks was a decent quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. But the ACC East is in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably you could say the SEC East right now is looking almost better than the SEC West. Outside of Alabama, take that away, you could have 3 10-win teams.
No, absolutely. And then if
you won't though,
you won't. It's likely
but
not going to happen. But if Florida beats Georgia, and all of a sudden Florida has that tie break, then it's the Gators.
Look at what you got now. A&M, 2 big losses to Clemson, Alabama. Auburn's not playing well right now. LSU could fall off. A couple more losses here and there against great teams.
Mississippi State's
already gotten 2 losses on the year. So I mean,
Arkansas doesn't even count as a football program now.
Not right now.
Yeah,
Arkansas, I petition that when it happens, because Arkansas and Florida State aren't winning 6 games, maybe even combined, that they should play a postseason game just for fun.
I want to see like
just
Arkansas, Rutgers, Illinois.
I want to see Rutgers against a Powder Puff high school team because that might be a more even matchup.
Just play Wake Forest. Just play
I want to
Wake
see like if each college had like a JV team, how they would fare against like some of the lower level
if they had like a
competition.
Club. That would be very interesting.
Very interesting.
I think there are probably some intramural flag football Clemson teams right now that could beat Rutgers.
Oh, I mean, you've probably got some of the actual players sneaking out of that intramural field possibly playing.
One text I wanted to get to here in this first segment. We got a text in from the 864. If UCF played the A&M schedule up to this point, what's their record? That's the question that has been posed to us because.
All right, how about this? We'll play a little game of win-loss. I'll go through the Texas A&M football schedule, and we'll pretend like it's Central Florida schedule, and you just tell me win or loss. Okay. You say either win or loss. So I'm pulling up the schedule right now. Here we go. All right. So week 1, home game, Northwestern State.
Next.
That's a win.
That's a win.
Okay.
That's a win.
Home against Clemson.
I'd say Clemson probably wins that game. It's probably going to be just as close as maybe the A&M game was. Now, you don't get the benefit of that home crowd and all, but I think it'd be a close game.
I'd say loss.
Loss. All right, so they're 1-1. Then you got home against Louisiana Monroe.
That's a win. Yep.
So 2-1. At Bama.
They're going to lose that.
2-2. Home against Arkansas.
They'll win that. I think they beat Kentucky as well. I think A&M schedule's not the one you want to use to judge how UCF would do in
I don't think so either. Because then you get into here's 4 weeks in a row for A&M. You got the home game against Kentucky, at South Carolina, at Mississippi State, at Auburn. You're not going 2-2 in that. Are they able
to compare with the other top teams in the country? Because if you're talking at the beginning of this segment about putting UCF in the playoff at the end of the season, and then you look at them playing, let's say they theoretically play Clemson, Alabama.
I think that's a very unique schedule, though, because
that's what you're going to see in the playoffs.
A&M's the only team in the country that has to face Clemson and Alabama in the same season. How about Notre Dame's schedule?
I get it.
You want to go through Notre Dame's schedule for UCF? I think that's probably a better one you could judge.
Yeah.
Because Notre Dame's a top 5 program, probably going to make the playoff right now. Evan's pulling up the schedule now. I could see UCF doing just as well.
I mean, do you think they beat Stanford, and you think they beat Michigan and
Virginia Tech? Let's go through. We got Michigan.
Here you go. You got Michigan at home week 1.
I give them a win there.
I give them a win there for sure.
You give Central Florida a win over Michigan?
Mackenzie Milton would
offense
tear.
Is not that impressive.
Brandon Wimbush beat Michigan.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Milton's far better than Brandon Wimbush.
Yep.
All right. Home against Ball State.
They'd win it in more convincing fashion than Notre Dame did.
Home against Vanderbilt.
I'd give UCF the win.
Yeah,
that's a game Notre Dame struggled with.
It's a tough one.
At Wake Forest.
I'd win that.
Move on.
Also, Notre Dame let Wake Forest score 27 points. Are we going to ignore that?
Yep.
No, we can't.
Okay. Home against Stanford.
Ooh, man. Home against Stanford?
How in back-to-back weeks can you let Wake Forest score 27 and then turn around and beat Stanford by 3 touchdowns? What kind of inconsistency?
Well, they had Ian Book for the Stanford game. That was the difference.
That was the
so
difference.
The offense looked a lot better.
Heck of a difference.
Another text in from the 864. What would UCF be with Clemson's schedule?
I think that might be something to look into next segment when we talk about the Clemson-Wake game just a little bit more.
All right, we can save it for that. Yeah.
We'll catch them on the other side of that one.
It's interesting to compare because, we talked about this during this segment about is UCF comparable to other top teams in the country? Should they be in the playoff if they're undefeated at the end of the season?
Because that's the only way to judge it, because they're not playing these kind of schedules.
No, and they're not going to have the opportunity unless they get put in the playoff.
Exactly. So we'll get into that on the other side of the break. Stick with us.
Yeah.
Pack your bags. Frontier Airlines has arrived at GSP International Airport with nonstop flights and low fares to Denver, Las Vegas, Orlando, and Tampa. Book your trip from GSP at flyfrontier.com. Frontier Airlines. Low fares done right.
Tune in Thursdays as Murdoch Superstores welcomes our weekly conversation with Daniel Shirley of the Athletic Atlanta. He'll bring us updates on the Bulldogs, the Yellow Jackets, and the Falcons. Thursdays with Daniel Shirley of the Athletic Atlanta. Brought to you by Murdoch Superstores in Livonia.
Join Out of Bounds with Quack and Kelly this Tuesday from 12 to 3 at Subway, 407 Sheep Farm Road across from Home Depot in Seneca. Not only will you get a great lunch value at Subway, but you can show your support for the Dabo All-In Foundation and breast cancer awareness by purchasing a Tigers for Tatas wristband. And who knows, there might even be a celebrity guest sandwich artisan there as well. Come out for a great cause and join Quack and Kelly live Tuesday, October 9th at Subway in Seneca.
Men, are you tired of those daily blue enhancement pills that take days, weeks, or months to work, if they ever work at all? Listen up. Now you can take Red, the new natural male empowerment pill that works on demand. Even your partner will notice the difference the very first time you use it. To prove Red won't disappoint like the others, you're invited to participate in our nationwide I Take Red Partner Reaction Guarantee Trial. We're seeking participants for this nationwide trial, not only to prove it works, the very first time you try it. We guarantee your partner will also notice the difference. Forget those slow-acting blue pills and join those who proudly take Red. Over 50,000 pills have already been claimed and supplies are limited. So to ensure your participation in this free nationwide trial, you must call now.
Superior Virility on Demand. You only need to take Red once to see what all the fuss is about. Call immediately to participate in our free nationwide trial. Call 800-506-2734. 800-506-2734. Be one of thousands to proudly say, I take Red. 800-506-2734.
Earnings vary based on your effort. Message and data rates may apply. Do you want to learn how to make money flipping houses right here in Greenville and Spartanburg? If so, we have an amazing opportunity for you. We're looking for a small group of motivated individuals to join our real estate investing team. You'll learn our simple 3-step system for flipping homes right here in the local area. This is Than Merrill, star of A&E's hit TV show Flip This House. My team and I are looking for a handful of people in the Greenville and Spartanburg area who want to learn how to make money flipping houses in your spare time using other people's money. Greenville and Spartanburg are perfect markets for my system, and this week I'm holding a free 2-hour educational workshop where you will learn how to make money flipping homes and how to build long-term wealth with income properties.
To get 2 free tickets to Than's workshop, text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000. Seating is extremely limited, so text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000 right now because this free ticket offer expires this Friday. Just text your zip code to 82,000.
It's R&R Tire Express's Dollar Down Liquidation Sale. Get started on tires you need and the wheels you want for only $1. With R&R's Everyone's Approved 6 months same as cash program. Tires, wheels, installed, then pay them off over 6 months. Don't waste your time shopping around. No other company offers 6 months same as cash. Plus, all in-stock wheel packages must go up to 50% off. And installation roadside assistance absolutely free. It's R&R's Dollar Down Liquidation Sale. Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson. RNRTires.com.
Everybody needs a little R&R.
And now, back to Jay, Bradley, and Evan.
Welcome back. Thanks for spending your Monday evening with us. Bradley's jamming out over here in the studio.
How could you not?
Yeah, it got a lot of
Only
good
I
text.
could actually play one of those instruments.
A lot of good text here during the break. One, Ben from Anderson texting. He had a simple question, guys. What did UCF do in their bowl game last season? Give them a shot.
Yeah,
Fair
no,
point.
They beat Auburn, and that's why so many people want to see like a 6 to 8 team playoff. They want to see if there's a team out there like UCF that could contend with some of these big boys. Because, I mean, you got to be honest, like Florida State a couple years ago when they played Northern Illinois and Auburn against UCF, they're not trying 100%. Like, it's not like they have that.
Well, those other teams are. I mean, Northern Illinois is trying.
That's the thing,
Boise
though,
State
like,
playing Oklahoma.
There's not
in the
much to
Fiesta
gain
Bowl.
there if you're Auburn or Florida State in those kind of games.
Except,
like,
you're saving yourself a lot of
you're
embarrassment.
basically just trying not to lose. That's
yes,
it.
No, yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, at the end of the season, really, for UCF's the only chance they have to actually prove that they've,
and they're going to have to
chance.
root for teams like Cincinnati and South Florida to continue winning.
Even Navy. I mean, Navy's not going to be a pushover. And depending, I forget, what was the team that was playing Navy later in their schedule that we talked about? That
Notre Dame.
triple? Yes.
Notre
So
Dame.
depending on how Notre Dame does against Navy, and then you compare that to how UCF does against Navy, I don't want to use the transitive property, but it's within.
You've also got a common.
reason.
You've also got a common opponent in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Between Navy and Notre Dame. So UCF. Sorry, UCF beat them by almost. Yeah, beat them by 30.
Yeah, and you could also say UNC, but I think we know how that game would have probably played.
And I
that game got canceled.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Florida.
you know how that game probably would have
I
played.
haven't seen anything from UCF. What's their closest game has been?
Florida Atlantic?
No, SMU. 48-20. I think 28
Well,
points.
Florida Atlantic was a 56-36
Florida Atlantic was a
game.
20-point game.
20-point
Oklahoma won by about the same margin, scored about the same number of points.
Yeah,
so
I
if
mean,
you want to use
UCF,
that.
if UCF goes through the season and they're 12-0, I feel like you have to give them the benefit of the doubt.
It all depends on the Big 12 would have to knock itself out. We've talked about that, how that's very possible.
It's possible.
The Pac-12, Washington's going to have to lose at some point because really, outside of Oregon, that's really the only team that has a chance in the Pac-12. I think Georgia's going to have to lose.
So you don't think Washington one loss, UCF undefeated, UCF gets the nod? Because Washington's
I got a hard time believing that.
Probably say Washington.
I don't think it'll happen. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically.
I think a one-loss Washington gets in over Central Florida because if you look at that first year of the playoff, Ohio State didn't win the Big Ten, I think, or maybe they did. Either way, they got in at 4 over undefeated Baylor and undefeated TCU.
They weren't undefeated.
Well, one
They
loss.
weren't undefeated.
Either way, like they were all
also,
pretty even, but the better
didn't
team
even-
and the better conference got the benefit of the doubt, just like I
They
think the
didn't even
Pac-12
win
would
their
get the benefit
division.
of the doubt.
Ohio State didn't even
American.
win their division, if I recall correctly.
That year, I think they won the Big Ten.
That was
because they beat Wisconsin that year.
Yeah,
59-zip.
That was the Big Ten championship.
First ever playoff. They won 59-0
2014.
with Cardell Jones, their third-string quarterback.
There was a time though where they got into the playoff without winning their division.
that was Alabama last
right?
year.
No, Ohio State's done it. It's Ohio State and Alabama.
They got in
the
over
only two
Penn
teams
State.
that have never
That's
won
right.
their division.
Penn State made a Rose
Got
Bowl and
in.
had a great game against USC and
Yep.
Sam Darnold that year.
Yep.
But
Good
yeah,
teams.
at the end of this UCF schedule, I think you could argue that a team like Michigan or another team in the 10 to 20 range, like Miami, I think would probably split a game with Cincinnati and South Florida. I think that's arguable. I mean, South Florida, decent team. Cincinnati's undefeated.
If UCF maintains their current level of performance, though, throughout the rest of the season, I feel like they should be given a chance in the playoff.
Yeah. Back to that question we had before, though, would they go undefeated with Clemson's schedule? I think they would. For right now, if you went through the entire Clemson schedule, I think UCF's going undefeated. I really do.
Well, let's play a little win-loss then, shall we?
I'm circling
We might as well.
Week 1,
Syracuse.
Furman at home.
Yeah, they're winning.
The only games that matter are Texas A&M.
On the road at A&M.
I think they beat A&M.
You think they beat A&M on the road?
I'd give that game to A&M. I really would.
I think I would, too.
I think that'd be the only game they probably lose, if they were going to lose one.
Well, I think they beat Georgia Southern pretty easily. I think at Georgia Tech, that's a tricky game.
They beat them pretty badly.
But
South Florida,
UCF doesn't play the triple option every year, though. Clemson does.
South Florida beat Georgia Tech, and UCF's probably going to be favored against South Florida this year. I know the transitive property.
The old transitive property.
Yeah.
The transitive
It's
property.
Home against Syracuse, and then
It's a
at
cheat
Wake
code.
doesn't count.
Cheat code.
So
Yeah, no, Wake Forest.
I see
No.
2, maybe 3 potential losses on Clemson's schedule for Central
But
Florida.
yeah, the only way that UCF gets in, Big 12's out, Pac 12's out.
Yeah.
Georgia's going to have to lose in the regular season and then lose to Bama. So
Yeah.
they'd have 2 losses.
But I think it's...
And then even Notre Dame
it's
would have
still,
to lose.
even if they don't get in, even if they drop a game, because let's be honest, the moment that UCF drops a game with their schedule, people are going to be
it's like what happened
screaming
to-
from the hilltops
Yeah.
about how they're not worthy of getting in.
It's like what happened to Houston. I think it was 2 years ago when they lost to Navy.
So
I mean,
if they
everyone
don't
wrote
get
them
in
off.
this year, that's completely fine. And in all likelihood, that's what's going to happen. I just think it's time for us to start taking UCF seriously, from a program standpoint.
How much
They're
more
not a
seriously
bad
do you want us to
football team.
take them? They're 10 right now with the opportunity to improve. Other
probably
teams are
should be
going to
higher.
lose.
Look. If they were being taken seriously, they wouldn't be behind 3 1-loss teams.
But
That's
the
what
AP
I'm saying.
poll, I don't think is the correct judgment.
No,
on
and I don't.
taking teams
You already
seriously.
know my opinion on the AP.
And
poll.
Walt mentioned it preseason. UCF and Boise State were like in the 20s. I mean, they were giving no respect to them at all.
Not at all. Of course, there is still some AP poll out there that's giving Clemson a first place vote.
Now,
and
if you
that
wanna-
boggles my mind.
If you want to look into the future here, if UCF's not going to gain the respect this year, but could gain it next year, 2019, they have a home game against Stanford on September 14th. That could be interesting. They play North Carolina and Georgia Tech in 2020, and then at Louisville 2021. So they're trying to schedule some of those teams. I think the thing is, though, with UCF, the better they get, the least likely teams are going to want to play them.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, unfortunate. It's almost like a double-edged sword.
Well, we'll monitor the text line, see if anybody has any other comments on that. But I want to turn now to Clemson Wake Forest. Clemson dominated all facets of the game here, 63-3 final score, 698 total yards, 471, I believe. Yeah, 471
on the ground.
Were on the ground, and they had,
and it wasn't even the highest rushing total of the week.
No,
thanks to Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Putting up 66 and 542 yards.
I was
against
telling
Louisville.
you before we went on air about the beef that Paul Johnson has with the
Oh,
Louisville
yeah,
defensive
yeah.
coordinator, going back to their days at Georgia Southern. So that was why Paul Johnson just held his
Talk
foot on
about
the gas.
fired up.
Yeah.
He was ready for this one, and honestly for his job too. I think he really needed a statement win like that and
Well,
trying to get this
beating
team
Louisville is not a statement win, but I understand what
more
you're
of
saying.
a confidence build.
Yeah,
you could say.
100%. Proof of concept is what it is. Proof that it still works in the 21st century.
What if I told you in terms of time of possession, Wake Forest had the ball longer than Clemson did?
They did.
throughout
I
the
saw
game?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Well, it helps when half of Clemson's touchdowns were 60-something plus yards. So that
3 running backs
doesn't
for
need to clock
Clemson
much.
had 60 plus yard runs.
And I don't know if you saw this. We now have nationally 3 of the top 13 running backs in terms of yards per carry. That's incredible, actually.
Yeah.
I think ETN is, I want to say he's either number 1 or number 2 at this point. I know the guy from Memphis, Henderson, was right up there with him. But Lynjay Dixon, I don't know if he qualifies for that stat to apply, but he's up there.
I mean, Etienne, 10 carries, 167 yards, 3 touchdowns. Joyce had 9 carries for 127 yards and a touchdown. And then Lynjay Dixon, you just mentioned, 163 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and we were a little split. Yeah, the running backs were great. Running backs were phenomenal. The defense played spectacular. We were a little split on how Trevor Lawrence played.
Wake Forest.
It was against Wake Forest.
It's a high school
you
team.
You can't judge the Wake game because they're 100+ in defense.
It was still a complete game for Clemson.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, I want to backtrack a little bit there because the first 3 possessions for Clemson, it didn't look great. I'll be honest with you. It really didn't. With Trevor Lawrence, getting the ball, then fumbling it when he was going back to throw. 18 total yards in the first 3 possessions. So I guess the talking point mainly about this game that I want to talk about with you, Bradley, is does that matter or will it matter later in the season when you're going into a playoff game?
I don't think it matters. I don't think it's the end of the world.
Is it going to put you score or two down?
Obviously it could, but when we saw with the Alabama game and the championship game 2 years ago, we got down 14-0 at the end of the first quarter and rallied back to win.
Yeah.
Clemson's a second-half team. I think there's no denying that. Right now, in terms of first quarter scoring, they're in the 80s nationally.
I mean, Clemson, again, I understand the final score was 63-3. I get it. But it was 7-0 after the first quarter. And there were a lot of people in the stands because we were sitting in the Clemson section and everybody was looking around going, what are we doing?
Counter argument. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
we won the game by 60 points and put up 700 yards of offense. I couldn't give a rat's behind what the first quarter score was.
And my counter argument to that is when you're playing a team like Alabama, it actually does matter what your production is in all 4 quarters. If you don't play 4 quarters against Alabama, you're going to lose.
If they don't, though, but they could. It's not like this game.
I'm not saying they can't. It's just they haven't done it yet. This is their most complete game, as Dabo said after the game in his press conference. But guess what? They didn't even play a first quarter.
Well, it's also one of the first games that Trevor's started and played the majority of the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. I mean, Kelly was known for getting off to really, really slow starts. That was one of the knocks.
Boyd, there's
even
lot of
Deshaun Watson had moments like that.
Always
I think it's going to take Trevor getting more comfortable in the pocket and more comfortable in this role in general to start gaining some of that momentum early in the game.
And did he get a decent amount of comfort from? Do you feel like that he looked? Because at the beginning of the game, truthfully, he didn't look like he was comfortable. I don't know if that was because of his injury the week prior. Probably he looked a little
rattled
when he
did
took
tweak
off.
an ankle as well.
He did. He came off limping a little bit, but did he look comfortable? Because to me, he didn't.
I think with the offense right now, Jeff Scott and Tony Ellett are really focusing on, and we talked about this a lot this week. They're just trying to give him opportunities where he can just move the ball down the field and not have to make game-saving, down the field explosive plays because he's capable. We know that for a fact. But we don't want to force those kind of things. They would just want the offense to continue to move. I think that's what they're kind of focusing on.
Running the ball and the ability to run the ball and having one of the best defenses in the country alleviates the pressure on the quarterback.
That helps a lot.
Alleviates pressure
That helps
tremendously.
a lot. We saw this with Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm is the prime example I'm using as what Trevor Lawrence has really been so far this season. Jake Fromm comes in last year, true freshman. He's only throwing the ball 15 times a game. He only had, and I have the stats right here from Jake Fromm's first 6 games from last year. He was 57 for 95. 836 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 picks.
See, I'd like to know who they played in those games.
They played Notre Dame week 2.
Okay.
So you could say that A&M and Notre Dame game are relatively the same.
It's comparable.
Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Samford, and Mississippi State. So I think, honestly...
No worse than Clemson's schedule
That's
so
what I'm
far.
saying. If you look at the competition level, I think Jake Fromm and Trevor Lawrence have played relatively the same teams. Trevor Lawrence stats, on the other hand, virtually even.
Yeah.
He's 69 for 100, 868 yards, 11 touchdowns, 2 picks. So I think putting all the pressure on Trevor, like what we saw maybe with Deshaun Watson a few years ago, wasn't beneficial to our offense. It can be, but it's not. So the ability to run the ball like Georgia was last year, I think really helps, especially a true freshman.
And I know that we obviously have differing opinions on the bubble screen play call because
I want to hear your
I'm not a huge fan of it, but do you feel like that the bubble screen with the high percentage completion throws allows the quarterback to get comfortable and allows the receivers to be the one making the plays?
Not only that, it keeps the running game moving too. Because if you're able to get the ball out quickly and move the ball down the field quickly, throws the defense off. They got to respect the outside more, and it opens up the middle of the field a lot more for ETN.
And you said they were getting, 6 yards on average?
6 yards on average this season on bubble screens.
You got to think, with Wake's 5 of their 7 linebackers being injured for this game, but you got to think against a caliber defense like Alabama or in the playoff, regardless who they're going up against, it wouldn't be as high.
It wouldn't be as high. I did talk to Jordan Harper, who writes for the Bama Insider, and he said the one way that you need to beat Alabama is by attacking that secondary and working the ball to the outside of the field on the outside. And that's where he thought ETN's ability to run the ball to the outside and Trevor's arm strength to get the ball out quickly to the outside is a way that teams could utilize and attack against Alabama.
The O-line for Clemson has to cooperate, though. The O-line for Clemson didn't look good last year in the Sugar Bowl, and it has to stay as a unit for all 4 quarters.
John Haidt mentioned this 2 weeks, I think it was last week. Putting engaged Cervenka for Clemson was huge. He's the one that came in the second half of the Syracuse game. We saw what happened after that happened. I think the O-line has potential. It's obviously not as good as the D-line. We know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But Mitch Hyde's an All-American offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. You've got other guys that are relatively...
Falcinelli's looking more comfortable. You've got guys like Sean Pollard or Tremont Ankrum. They're still developing. It's got a long way to go in the season before we get to that Alabama test. But you need to prepare because this is your... Look, we all know the ACC schedule is not what it's been in years past, so we need to take these opportunities week after week to improve, to put Trevor in situations that he's going to be in the postseason and figure out
Well, I think that's exactly what we've done. And to go back to the whole Wake 7 points in the first quarter, here's why I don't care. Here's Wake's offensive drives in the first quarter. 6 plays, -5 yards, punt. 3 plays, -19 yards, punt. 3 plays, -2 yards, punt. 3 plays, 3 yards, punt. 9 plays, 31 yards, interception. So when your defense is playing like that and you're trying to get your quarterback comfortable and you're trying to increase his confidence by throwing bubble screens and maybe not going for the home run play every now and again, I get that. It makes sense because that's what Georgia did with Jake Fromm last year. You rely on the running game to improve your quarterback play, and you do it slowly. We don't have to play Wake Forest like we're going to play against Alabama because Wake Forest is never going to be Alabama. But the fact that we can get Trevor Lawrence comfortable in the pocket, making throws that are going to increase his confidence and his accuracy and his ability to maintain drives and hold on to the ball and not, fumble it or throw an interception, something like that. That's why I don't necessarily have a problem with the bubble screens because they, like you say, Bradley, they work. They're just not fun to watch as a fan.
It's not exactly the entertainment factor you're going to get, but it keeps him healthy as well. That's another point. It keeps Trevor Lawrence from having to scramble or get a lot of pressure on him. And it boosts his confidence.
Getting the ball quickly helps boost the confidence.
I would much rather us throw more bubble screens than run read option plays with Trevor Lawrence that involve him running the ball because I don't care if you're 6'6" and almost 250 pounds. I don't want him running the ball if he doesn't have to.
He's a freshman, and he learned last week what can happen if he doesn't run smart.
He learned his lesson,
and he's going to get injured. So I don't think we're going to see him run the ball as much. I just think that, like I said, at the end of the day, I can't really look at Wake and actually use them as an accurate way to measure up Clemson's defensive capability. Like, we know that Clemson has a great defense. We know that Wake is not a good football team. So at the end of the day, I still want to see Clemson play a full 60 minutes. What'd you make of Hunter Renfrow going out there? He was punting, he was passing, he was doing everything.
Prototypical flex guy you put in fantasy. He can do it all. I mean, he really can. He's a coach's dream. He can come in at any situation and look great. Even as a quarterback, can sprint 40 yards down the field and block.
Yeah.
I mean, for crying out loud, Cam Newton's block on Sunday was just as good as Hunter Renfrow's block on Saturday was.
I got a sound effect queued up in honor of Hunter Renfrow.
Dilly.
That's all.
Well, I guess that is appropriate. But I don't know. What's your last takeaway? Final takeaway from the Wake Forest game?
Final takeaway from the Wake Forest game. You can't really judge Mitch into it. The special teams didn't really need that too much.
Yeah.
We saw a couple times we had Amari Rodgers come in there, but the defense was just shut down. That's the thing. Like Wake scored 27 against Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. They've put up points on other teams before. We held them to 3 points. This was the largest ACC win we've ever had in history.
Yeah,
I mean that says a lot.
Yeah. No, I think with the best defense in Clemson history and the talent that we have at running back, there was just no way that Wake was going to be able to stop us. I mean, again, so we had 3 running backs with 60-plus yard carries. I mean, I think there were 3 possessions where it was literally Trevor Lawrence hikes the ball, turns around, hands it off, and breaks it out, with a huge run for the score. So, like I said, overall, it's just another practice game, really, for Clemson. They have a lot, I think, still left that they can work on. I think Dabo will echo that in his press conference tomorrow. But
great tune-up for this hard game we got coming up next week against the Bye. Could really trip us up.
And that was something that the players in their press conferences today said came at a really good time. With all the stuff that's going on, with Kelly leaving and then with, obviously, Fuller, they just wanted to have a week where they could just kind of regroup.
And Dabo mentioned, we still haven't played our best game.
Nope.
We played Wake. It was a great game. Still haven't played our best.
This is the best game they've played so far this year, but you're right. They still can play a lot better. We got to cut to a quick break, though. When we come back, we'll look at some of the big games for Week 7. That's next.
Are you tired of seeing and doing the same thing every day? Are you ready for a career that's exciting and different? Excel Truck Driver Training is your answer. Truck drivers get to travel and see new things every day. Your office is the open road, and you're in charge. Excel offers certified Class A and Class B CDL courses taught by experienced instructors with flexible scheduling that includes days, nights, or weekends. Excel Truck Driver Training, locally owned and operated in Piedmont. 864-844-1961.
Diamonds and Gold Direct, we're your diamond source. Every day low prices waiting for you. Custom design jewelry too for diamonds. You want Diamonds and Gold Direct for everything in diamonds and gold. Come in and see the pros who know. Diamonds and Gold Direct, we're your diamond source.
Join Out of Bounds with Quack and Kelly this Tuesday from 12 to 3 at Subway, 407 Sheep Farm Road across from Home Depot in Seneca. Not only will you get a great lunch value at Subway, but you can show your support for the Dabo All-In Foundation and breast cancer awareness by purchasing a Tigers for Tatas wristband. And who knows, there might even be a celebrity guest sandwich artisan there as well. Come out for a great cause and join Quack and Kelly live Tuesday, October 9th at Subway in Seneca.
Right now at Blanchard Machinery, get 0% for 60 months on new cat equipment. Because we know growing your business isn't just one thing, it's a million little things. And we're ready to help. With expert advice, flexible financing, and industry-leading equipment, you can get the job done, day after day. Get 0% for 60 months on new cat equipment. Call 844-BLANCHARD or visit blanchardmachinery.com/TV. Terms and conditions apply.
Trucks cost less than Travelers Rest at George Coleman Ford. The award-winning George Coleman Ford is offering 2018 F-150s as low as $23,999. You heard me correct. Some new F-150s as low as $23,999. Plus, never any document fees at George Coleman Ford. Trucks do cost less than Travelers Rest. 4 generations doing business right. George Coleman Ford.
After $4,500 in rebates, must finance with Ford.
Earnings vary based on your effort. Message and data rates may apply.
Do you want to learn how to make money flipping houses right here in Greenville and Spartanburg? If so, we have an amazing opportunity for you. We're looking for a small group of motivated individuals to join our real estate investing team. You'll learn our simple 3-step system for flipping homes right here in the local area. This is Stan Merrill, star of A&E's hit TV show Flip This House. My team and I are looking for a handful of people in the Greenville and Spartanburg area who want to learn how to make money flipping houses in your spare time using other people's money. Greenville and Spartanburg are perfect markets for my system, and this week I'm holding a free 2-hour educational workshop where you will learn how to make money flipping homes and how to build long-term wealth with income properties.
To get 2 free tickets to Than's workshop, text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000. Seating is extremely limited, so text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000 right now because this free ticket offer expires this Friday. Just text your zip code to 82,000.
Booking your flight to see the Tigers play this weekend? Before you leave home, make sure your ID will fly by switching to a real ID with the correct documentation at any SCDMV branch. Visit scdmvonline.com for a complete list of what's needed to purchase your real ID today and see if you're eligible to buy yours from the comfort of home. Again, that's scdmvonline.com and search Real ID. Don't delay. Buy your real ID today.
And now back to After Further Review.
Welcome back. Time for one final segment of this week's show. Got one fella on the phone lines. We'll get to him in a second. First, we're going to have Bradley throw out the communication phone lines one more time.
Yeah, as Jay said, we got one waiting on the line, but the Northline Communication Hotline again, 864-654-7627. And the Help Desk text line, we've had a bunch texted already, 864-986-1566.
All right, well, let's go ahead now and get Snaphook on with us. Hadn't called into the show before, so looking forward to this. How you doing today, Snaphook?
I'm doing well, fellas. How are y'all?
Great, man. Can't complain. What's going on?
Just leaving Lowe's for the 20th time in the past 2 weeks. Any man that says he's been to Lowe's only once is a liar.
That's true. That's true. Personal experience.
Lowe's and Home Depot, those are the two for a dad to go to, right?
Yep.
No doubt. No doubt. Man, I want to talk about bubble screens for a little bit. And I know that, the normal fan kind of gives the bubble screen, and I guess the frequency at which we call them a little bit of a hard time. And I think it's just because, they don't understand the concept. If you get 4 or 5, chip yards here and there with a bubble screen, all you're doing is spreading the defense out and making them play tight. All that does is open up the middle of the field for the run game.
And that's what I was saying.
I know that there was everybody was kind of bummed out from the bubble screen game a little bit this weekend, but look at what it did for the run game. I mean, it just opened up the middle of the field, and I asked a Wake Forest buddy of mine, I said, do you even safety, bro? Like, where were the safeties in that game? I mean, they weren't anywhere.
No, I think that's a good point. You know, obviously, against a Wake Forest defense that had, 5 of their 7 linebackers out, you have to take that into consideration. But you're not wrong in saying that later on down the road, later in the season, possibly in the playoff games, if Clemson's able to do that effectively, it can create more holes in the running game.
Absolutely. And, I mean, that's the design intent of it. It's chess, not checkers. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's all a setup from the beginning. And I think the average fan just doesn't quite understand that. Everybody wants to see Trevor throw it, 50 yards down the field, but it's chess. So I appreciate you taking my call, guys. Love the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you getting in with us.
He's got a point.
Hopefully you don't have to go to Lowe's 2 more times. Go ahead, Bradley. What were you saying?
He's got a point, though. Like, the downs that we use the bubble screens is also a crucial thing to look at. First down and 10. You gain 5 yards. Yep. That's a successful play. Second and 3. 5 yards. That's a first down. It's an easy way to throw the defense off, spread them out like he was saying, make the safeties commit to guarding the outside of the field and open up that run game.
On the flip side of that, though, I think most people's problem with the bubble screen is like if you do run it on first down and it goes for negative yardage, you put yourself behind the chains.
Then all of a sudden it's second and 11,
second and 13 doesn't look so good.
I've seen it before where they've thrown the ball and, it's gone behind. They've thrown it backwards and the receiver doesn't catch it. It's a fumble. Then all of a sudden it's a turnover.
And I think with Trevor, that's the only way that the bubble screen really, I think, works because as we saw with Deshaun, he's got the arm strength.
And he's got to have the speedy receivers, which he does.
He's
got T. Higgins, he's got Justin Ross, he's got Amari, all those guys.
Getting it out there quick, that arm velocity, that ball velocity, gives those guys a chance to showcase that speed against any defender. With Kelly, he was lobbing it. I mean, he didn't give the guys any chance. We were lucky to even get 3 yards. So I think with Trevor, it's a very successful play and something that keeps him comfortable.
We'll see. We'll see how Clemson continues to utilize that play call throughout the season. Now, though, want to touch on each of us has got a game for Week 7 that we wanted to highlight. Bradley, start with you.
So this is kind of an under-the-radar game. Got some of the big games. The SEC's got Georgia, LSU, obviously. Evan will touch on a couple more games later. Florida, Vanderbilt. That's one of the ones I would have focused on. Florida obviously coming off a big-time win against LSU.
Vanderbilt?
It is at Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Florida coming off a big-time win against LSU, a very emotional win. Dan Mullen's got these guys playing well. But going on the road to Vanderbilt, not exactly a hostile environment. But as we said in the past, Vanderbilt almost beat or should have beat Notre Dame. It's a decent, low-level SEC team that I think is very capable of surprising a team like Florida that's coming off, like I said, an emotional kind of win. Kyle Shermer's a very experienced quarterback. We saw with the Notre Dame game, he's capable late-game scenarios of, driving a team down the field and leading them to win. And I think, after that emotional win, I think Vanderbilt's got a chance.
Yeah. For my game of the week, I'm going Washington at Oregon, and I'm actually picking the Ducks in this matchup because I was not impressed at all with how the Huskies played this past weekend at UCLA, an 0-5 team. Now, we haven't even talked about Chip Kelly. I don't think we've said Chip Kelly on this show in like 3 weeks.
Is it even worth talking about? Like, are we really going to bring it up now?
Nebraska and UCLA shouldn't be on this show.
But, again, with Oregon, they had that loss to Stanford in overtime. Inexplicable loss in a lot of ways. So I'm still giving the Ducks the benefit of the doubt, especially with how they performed offensively. I mean, they've had 42 points, 35, 62, 58 in their wins. They had 31 points in their loss. So I think this game, with it being at home, it's a strange kickoff time. It's 3:30 Eastern, so it's a noon kickoff game, which I don't understand that at all, but I'm still going with the Ducks.
I'm not
think
complaining.
Because of Herbert and everything.
We don't have to stay up till 10:45 to watch kickoff.
Oh, I would
totally
stay up till 1 a.m.
But you don't have
to watch this game.
This is going to be a good game. Washington's offense has looked a little bit suspect.
Less than 30 points
the last
a game.
Couple games.
Oregon's averaging 45.
If Oregon can get Browning uncomfortable, Justin Herbert's the better quarterback. He really is. And Oregon's going to score 30+. Can Washington match that? I don't think
they can, and it's shocking to me because I was picking Washington to go undefeated and make the playoff this year, but the more I've watched them play...
Yeah, what happened to Myles Gaskin?
I haven't seen enough from the Huskies, really, and I think the Ducks are going to win.
If you want a true Pac-12 after dark feeling about that game, just turn your phone off and record it, and then just don't start watching it until 10:45 at night. And then all of a sudden, it's a night game.
Yeah, or just don't sleep at all the night before.
Interestingly, though, ESPN, because right now the line's at 3, so it's kind of a toss-up, essentially, but ESPN is giving Washington a lot of benefit of the doubt.
Hey, they gave Florida a 60% chance to beat LSU. Thought that was crazy. Was proven wrong. Thanks, Evan.
You're welcome.
Do that high pitch thing again.
That was not a sound
There
effect.
you
That's
go.
actually Evan's
That's
voice.
me. That's me on the microphone.
Was that Grayson?
I would also like to point out that 2 weeks in a row, my upset pick has been correct, and I'm really jeopardizing.
Horn, why don't you?
Definitely jeopardizing that streak this week. I don't know if I'm supposed to use my upset pick as my game of the week, but I'm going to because the West Virginia Mountaineers are hiking into Jack Trice Stadium in Ames, Iowa to take on the Cyclones, which is a tricky game for a lot of Big 12 teams. Iowa State's kind of a hard team to predict, to pin down, but also a hard team to beat, especially at home. And this game in Morgantown last year was a one-score game. Iowa State almost messed around and did the thing then, and I see no reason why they can't do it at home. I think their defense is probably capable of holding West Virginia to under 40 points, which would be below their season average. Yeah, exactly. And I think if you can hold West Virginia under 40, and if you can really hold them under 30, which is asking a lot, I'm not entirely sure Iowa State, if this is a shootout, they're definitely not capable of outscoring them. But their offense is capable of putting up some numbers. They average over 23 points a game, 330 total yards a game. They're going to need to step their rushing game up, I think, to beat the Mountaineers. But I like this as my upset pick. Like I said, it's only a 6-point spread right now. ESPN only gives West Virginia a 62% chance to win this game. So I think it'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. I think it's not going to be an easy win, especially considering West Virginia's not played super well the last 2 weeks. I mean, they gave up 22 points to Kansas.
Yeah,
last
by
week.
16. If we're doing upset picks,
it's
heck,
toss-up.
I'll throw mine out there. I'm taking UVA to beat Miami.
Really?
I really think Bronco
they didn't look
Mendenhall.
good against FSU.
Bronco Mendenhall is due for a big time win. He's a great coach at UVA. He's just waiting to finally break out.
So you've jumped the Virginia Tech bandwagon?
I'm going across the state over to Charlottesville. I'm taking UVA here. Listen, Miami's looked bad. They really have. Very inconsistent.
Needed a 20-point comeback to beat FSU this weekend.
UVA's quarterback Bryce Perkins, I've kind of compared him to Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh, and we saw what he did last year against Miami. Upset them at home. This game's in UVA.
I'm impressed.
UVA's 3-2, but honestly could be 5-0 with the 2 games they lost.
Man's done his homework.
I'm picking the Who's right here.
I guess if I had to pick one upset for this week, it would probably be Georgia Tech over Duke. This game is going to be
an upset
at Georgia Tech. Yeah, no, I mean it would be technically.
I think it's an upset no matter who wins.
1 point loss.
Yeah, that's true. But no, I mean I think Georgia Tech with the whole triple option just obliteration of Louisville this past weekend proved that they can still do it effectively. And, Duke may be sleeping on them a little bit. What is this? This is a 12. So it's a noon kickoff game. ESPN basically has this one as a toss-up.
So, as it should be.
Georgia Tech, they're still averaging 41 points a game. So
yeah.
they're
beating up on a lot of low opponents.
They have,
putting up 70
as
on
the
them,
rest of the ACC has, and I understand that Duke's only real game was against Virginia Tech, which they lost in pretty convincing fashion. So, is this an upset? Kind of.
Duke defends
not.
the pass a lot better than they do to run, and Georgia Tech's going to throw about 2 passes this entire game.
Max.
But Duke is 4-1. Georgia Tech's 3-3. So this would be a good win for Georgia. For Georgia Tech.
It's a critical ACC coastal matchup if you want to look at it that way.
All right. Well, here I'll go back and since I used my upset pick as my game of the week, I'll go back and pick a different game. And the reason I didn't pick this upset game is pretty obvious. Missouri at Alabama.
Oh my gosh.
Because I don't think Missouri has a realistic chance of beating Alabama. I mean, Bama's a 4-touchdown favorite, and they have the Heisman front runner starting at quarterback throwing for 1,000,000 yards a game. But if this game gets into a shootout, Bama's defense, as Walt has alluded to since before the season even started, is not the same Bama defense that we've gotten accustomed to the past several years. They're not as physically dominant. They're not as good at stopping the run. And their starting safety Diggs just broke his foot and is out indefinitely. So you're looking at an already weaker Alabama defense that just got even weaker losing a starting safety. And like I said, if this game gets into a shootout, I think Drew Lock is capable of going shot for shot with Tua Tagovailoa. It's just a matter of if Missouri's defense can come up with a stop at any point, which they won't.
I can't wait for the text line to explode after we go off air. We only have a couple minutes
Bama's
left, and I wish we could talk about this.
Sorry.
No,
I hope.
Wait,
Bama will be held under their season average in terms of points scored. They average 56 points a game. They're not going to get to that.
I mean,
Missouri's offense averages 40
that.
points a game. This offense is capable of keeping up this offense. It's just the defenses aren't capable of keeping up.
Take the
each
over,
other.
but take Bama.
2 minutes left in the show. Real quickly, Bradley, who have you got in your top 6 after week 6?
Top 6, I got number 1 Alabama, number 2 Notre Dame, number 3 I was gonna put Ohio State. I think Georgia's probably the more talented team between the two. They just haven't proven it yet. I'll take Georgia 3, Ohio State 4. I got Clemson 5, but I think with the remaining schedule we could see some shakeup there. 6 West Virginia. And then UCF at 7.
I'll tell you what, after last week, which felt like you were tuning into a political debate, it was so hostile. This feels more like, kindergarten class.
I can breathe.
Singing Kumbaya around the campfire. My top 6 after week 6, I got Bama at 1, Georgia at 2, Notre Dame at 3 because of how they played this past weekend, Ohio State 4, Clemson at 5, and West Virginia at 6. I just feel like
it's similar we've ever had. On top
I
sixes.
absolutely would agree on that.
Let me be the wild card then. I got Bama 1, Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame, Clemson, Penn State at 6.
Interesting, yeah.
But y'all like West Virginia a lot more than I do.
That's true.
Big fan.
Only thing about Clemson so far is they haven't played a complete game, all 60 minutes yet. I think all of us agree that it can happen, and I hope it will happen. It just hasn't happened yet. So for those reasons, right now, if the playoff were to begin today, I would not put Clemson in.
They'd be 4 at best. I'd still slide them in.
I think would beat them.
I think they'd have a better resume than Georgia would at this point, but we just don't know. Georgia's got to play 4 ranked teams the next 5 weeks, so they could easily jump them there. Real quick, I do, before we conclude here, want to recognize St. John's College. Shout out to you up in Minnesota. Your coach, John Gagliardi, unfortunately died at the age of 91, had the all-time win total of 489 wins, which was 80 more than Joe Paterno. Set the all-time record. He passed away at the age of 91. Just want to recognize him. So shout out to everyone up in Minnesota.
Yeah, wow, what a career, what a legacy. But hey, unfortunately, we are out of time. The hour goes by so quickly here in the studios. So for Bradley, Evan, and myself, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.